Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Human Rights Committee, May 18th, 2023. I know that the minutes went out late, so I apologize. They sent them early and I don't know, I flaked on them. Before we go through the approval, I know Cynthia, you sent something.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any other additions or changes or
I saw
edits?
something, but I forgot to make note of it, so just let it go.
What I sent wasn't substantive. It was just, they had a question mark somewhere and I filled that in. And then I think it's really helpful for people reading the minutes we have our agenda that we go down. And so we go from one thing to another to just put those headers in, and then anybody looking at the minutes can kind of find things, but it's nothing.
You can go in. Go ahead.
The other thing that I think would have been helpful for them to know, because this is the first time they've done it, that when you have a guest like that, you don't have to transcribe the whole thing. You can just say a guest presented on. I don't think they need to put every single thing that he told them, but I'm sure they never did minutes before. So it's just a learning experience.
It was phenomenal what they did, really.
Right.
Must have taken them forever.
Mhm. It will be very useful for people to see that.
Okay, that's great. Does anybody else have any other comments or edits they want made? Can I please have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
A second?
Bud raised his hand.
Okay, Marlene,
Yes,
Bud,
he's gone now.
okay, Cynthia,
Yes,
Jen,
Yes.
Amelia,
Yes.
Nate,
Yes.
and I am a yes. So the minutes from April 23rd, 23 have been approved. I also forgot to take attendance. So would you please just say present or yes when I call your name? Marlene,
Yes,
Bud,
Present.
Cynthia,
Yes.
yes,
Jen,
Yes.
Amelia,
Yes.
Nate,
Present.
and I am a present. Okay, great. Thank you. Katie, anybody on for public participation this evening?
No, we have no attendees.
Okay, thank you. So the first kind of meaty bit of this is the discrimination complaint process. It was passed. Final. So I don't know if anybody got to watch our
Yes.
session. We went
yes.
right at the beginning. And we really took everybody's feedback, not only from this committee, but from various members from the select board, worked it into the flow chart, the narrative, reiterated Nuari. So I think all of those things combined really got us past the finish line. The next step, though, is going to be, well, there are going to be a few things. And Marlene, jump in anytime you see fit. We need to finalize the intake form. So Marlene and I, we're going to work on that and then send that to everybody for edits. We also need to come up with a marketing strategy. And so I think tonight we wanted to sort of discuss how we wanted to go about this. I feel like we could take two paths. And again, Marlene and I discussed this briefly after our meeting with the select board. Come up with a marketing plan for HRC overall and include the discrimination complaint process within that framework, or really focus on the discrimination complaint process and kind of push that out. I think Marlene and I were leaning towards really coming up with some strong collateral for HRC, particularly because there are still so many people that don't know that the committee exists and what we do as a committee, the other types of things that we do, including education, outreach, obviously the complaint process. But I think it's important to get input on this and, let's start brainstorming ideas and what we need to do and how we're going to get there as far as developing a marketing strategy for us. So does anybody, Marlene, do you have anything else to add to that? Is she talking?
Unmute.
Thank you, you'd think after 3 years. Okay. I didn't know who was representing us at the Mass Human Rights Committee meeting last Friday, because I had reached out to Adam LaFrance, who seems to be one of the coordinators of it, and to ask about rolling it out and getting advice from other committees, commissions. And he said it could have been brought up at the end of the meeting. I didn't go to that meeting, and I don't think Tina saw my email asking her who was representing us. Anyway, he gave me a list of some committees. So I actually have emailed a few. It goes like to their government email address, their town email address, just to ask them about what they did for rollout so we could learn from them and not have to reinvent the wheel. Obviously, every community is different and we all have different communication vehicles available to us, but I just wanted you all to know that I at least hopefully got that ball rolling. And I don't know who the June representative is to that group, because that person could bring it up there as well, because I only emailed a few people. So Tina, you must have that list of who volunteered, if there
I
is some.
was at the May, but I didn't stay to the very end, but
That's when it has to, I guess they have updates at the end, and that's where we would ask for it. So
Mhm.
So Tina, if we know who it is, we can pursue that as well as do our brainstorming here and see if I get any responses to the emails I sent out.
Okay, that's great. Does anybody else have any just ideas about, I think I have some brochures kicking around that Christina Matthews gave me. I mean, they're old. So I do really feel like, Marlene and I do really feel like we need to update everything. How does everybody feel about that? What is that going to look like? It's nice to have physical copies of things, but we also live in a digital world now. So I don't know. We just need to get some ideas to get the ball rolling.
I'm confused. Are we talking about the mission statement and?
It's just
the whole
marketing. Yeah. Marketing us as a committee and, really pushing out the discrimination complaint process so people know that is a tool, that is something that is available to people if they need to report something. But it sort of doesn't really make sense to push the complaint process if people don't even know that HRC exists, right? So it's almost like we need to figure out how do we want to promote and market who we are so that ultimately we can make sure the community knows that the complaint process exists. Does that make sense, Amelia? Does that answer your question?
Well, I'm thinking about where do we start, and maybe looking at the annual report, which begins with our mission statement and our role. The complaint process, although it has been a work in progress, is sort of embedded in this whole list of criteria that indicate what we do in the community. No one reads this, but it's very explicit. It's very detailed. And I think it says a lot about what we're doing as a committee and our outreach to the community and other groups in the community. So I don't know. I don't know where to begin. Should we begin with the beginning of the report, or we can't do this now, but maybe looking at the report and thinking about what we could take from that report?
I think the website would be a place where we could add some things potentially.
You mean the town hall website?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could do, and I don't know how to do this, but like a QR code or something that people could get on their phone to link them to the website, where we could have like the report that you're talking about, Amelia, and I agree with Bud. I think we could juice up that our website a little bit to kind of give more information and make it a little bit more interesting.
The other thing that's possible, I think, in places like Roach Brothers, Sudbury Farms, et cetera, I think they still have some posted areas that we could, have something with, again, a QR code that people can find out what the Needham Human Rights Committee does.
I'm wondering if Hetty Eaton still puts something out when you come to town and you register as a voter for the first time. It's almost like a welcome package. And we could have either a brochure in there or just something small with the QR code to let people know about us, at least people who are new to town. We also have, there's going to be this new Needham Observer. I think that's what it's called. It's going to be the new online news, and the weekly Needham, I never remember what it's called, communication that goes out. I think that's a good place for us to be also. I don't know what the, how many people get that, Katie? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, it's just over 5,000 people.
Oh, so it's, and what, we have like 30,000 people in town?
Yeah, but 5,000 is more than
So
any other list we have by far.
Yeah.
So,
Another thought would be the senior center and places in town that we, again, could have something so people know, that these types of things are available. I mean, whether it's, and even houses of worship, they have bulletin boards, just, spread the word.
Cynthia,
I think it's important to think about how to spread the word, but right now we need to figure out what we need to do about framing it. And I like the idea that you want to have something about the Human Rights Committee and have the discrimination complaint process. I'm concerned right now that it spent so much time getting to this point of having it approved that let's not spend a lot of time getting the very best statement. If we can use maybe the beginning of the annual report, the mission statement, and maybe a couple of things about what we do, and have the complaint process so we can get the thing going now and not try to spend a lot of time, just have a bare bones overview, and then you could have links to other places. I don't think it will be too hard to find out how to link up with the already existing publication networks. I think what we need to do is figure out how we want to frame it now.
Nate,
Thanks. Yeah. So building off of that, it strikes me that with respect to the discrimination complaint process specifically, it might be helpful to have some limited material on the Human Rights Committee generally, but provide the discrimination complaint process information, whether it's in a memo form or something, to the parts of town governance that we anticipate being primary intake. So like making sure that the police department has a one-pager that allows people who come in and have concern, here's a resource that's available. Same thing with schools. I mean, I'm brainstorming without having thought this all the way through, but I'm sure we could identify other nodes in which we think information is going to flow in, so that those people who are interacting with the public have access to the process and can get them towards us.
Mm-hmm.
that's great.
Like the housing, so forth. Yeah.
Yep.
Hospital, starting with a library, starting with all of the town places.
What other thoughts do you guys have?
Can you see our hands, Tina?
No, I can't.
Oh.
Okay,
Do you have the raise hand buttons?
Marlene,
use the
why don't you
raise-
go first?
And, but Jen, I think, has had her hand up a lot longer than
Oh,
we.
I didn't even see it. She was in front of my hand.
Go ahead, Jen. you
That's
go.
okay. I think that I was, Cynthia brought us back to kind of a important discussion. I think I was going down the road. So for what it's worth, at some point a while back, we had talked about maybe taking HRC on the road and having meetings like down at the Housing Authority, at the library, or at the senior center. And that maybe something like that, again, once we have all the what we're sharing ready for people, that might be kind of interesting. Maybe even if it's like every other month, we have a meeting on location someplace where, you know, that community can see all this excitement in action. Might be a way to get people engaged a little bit.
Magda and I have a meeting actually with the new executive director of the Housing Authority in the next week or so. So we could kind of let her know some of the things that we're doing with the Human Rights Committee.
I don't,
Sorry, I mean,
I just want to say, I don't think that our old brochure is that outdated. And I think that except like adding the complaint discrimination process, it still talks about the protected classes. So I don't know that we have to do a big reworking of it. I think we just want that information plus. And we did we have some content that we used when we presented it to the select board that I think would be good. And so, you know, I agree with Cynthia. We don't need to sort of reinvent the wheel and start fresh, but I mean, we can redo it at another time, but just to get it, just think something out there. I don't know how the rest of you feel about that. Amelia was.
Amelia.
Yeah, Marlene and I worked together for 4 years. We think alike. I was going to say the same thing about the brochure. And we used to place the brochures in the library, town hall, at events. We would distribute them. They're folded, so they're short. They're easy to carry. People can put it in their pocket. They won't throw it away. But I thought it was very well done with so the human rights in a nutshell. But we could highlight the complaint process in that brochure. We could redesign the brochure.
Yeah.
Do you have a copy? I have it somewhere. I could.
And- Yeah, I like that. And maybe on the front, have something in neon or some way that it stands out. Whoops, I see Katie.
Tina, Katie has her hand up, Tina.
Katie,
Thanks, everyone. I was just gonna add that, you know, HRC doesn't have its own standalone budget, but I think for something like if instead of printing paper copies of the brochure, like if you wanted to do a postcard or a bookmark or something, I can check in and we can cobble together kind of some printing funds for
The
that.
town always printed these for us.
Yeah, I mean, ones that are nicer than what our like Xerox in the office can do.
No, yeah. Have you ever seen the brochure? It's actually nice.
Yes, it's just regular printer paper, and it's the graphics and the layout are great, but I mean, like if you wanted a postcard with a QR code and have it be something that you know, stays on a fridge for a long time or something like that. It's just a thought. We don't have thousands, but I could cobble together, you know, enough to do a
Good idea.
one run at the printer.
Yeah, postcard's an interesting idea.
Yeah,
Do,
go ahead.
sorry, Katie, so we'll need to add, for example, the discrimination complaint process. First of all, does somebody have, or is there a digital copy that exists somewhere? And do we have somebody that is capable of doing that graphic work?
Amelia, don't you have it electronically?
I might. I have to look. My computer crashed about 5 years ago and I lost a lot, but I think I remembered circulating it in the last 3 years.
You know, who else? You know, Sandy used to have it. So does that
Yeah.
mean Miles might have it?
I have
I
a
think I,
paper copy, so I could photocopy that. You know, we could go from there, but let me look.
I think I have the
Yeah, you
brochure. So Tina, in terms of more graphics, we are in between. We don't have a public information officer right now. So like in-house design work, I wouldn't say is like something we have a lot of capacity to do. So if anyone's good on Canva or like, I don't know, maybe if this is like a Carrie skill set, you know, I can take
Tina,
a crack at
Cynthia-
something, but this is, you know, I'm not a professional.
Cynthia has her hand up.
Okay.
Cynthia?
I think that while we're in the developing how we're going to do the complaint process, that maybe we stick with just small modifications of the current pamphlet. And once we get it more worked out, then we can go to a higher tech thing. And if you wanted to know about different places, I remember when Wellesley started their complaint process, and it may be quite different, but they had a hotline number and they actually put signs up outside around town. You know, you've had an experience of discrimination or hate or whatever, call this number. And that was their rollout, was around that. I don't know how it worked, but there are a lot of different ways of doing things. But I think that we've taken a very careful approach, and we've got, you know, a lot of anonymity to it. We've got a lot of things built in, but we're still figuring it out that maybe we don't need to do the signs around. We need to get it out, to try it out, but maybe we don't need to, we can wait for the next iteration to have the fancier kind of bookmarks or things that go on the refrigerator, because we might say, whoops, we discovered that it's better to have everybody do a phone intake, or whatever it is we discovered, that maybe we don't need to go to that level yet.
Okay. So basically you're saying trial. We need to start, we're almost in a trial phase right now. So before we really do an official rollout.
No, I'm thinking an
to
official.
Make sure that
rollout.
we,
Yeah. But we
Sounds like
don't,
it's still
need to-
open.
we don't need to go to the plastic things that go on the refrigerator yet. We need to have a rollout in order to try it, but perhaps we don't need to do. We keep in mind that it would be nice to have more graphics or whatever, and that we need something new, but maybe it's something that builds on what we already have so that we can get started for that. And then the next phase would have the higher, not that we aren't publicizing it, they have racks of things at Park and Rec and so forth. No, there's lots of existing places, and plus the town community publication, whatever, publicity person, which you don't have yet, a new one, right?
Communication, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think once we get something, both electronically and paper,
Mhm.
I love this idea. Remember, we talked about this before, about having our meetings at all these different places in town, and it just makes us known, you know.
What if we did like a maybe a fall event that was like a kickoff of sorts? That's an education event to talk about the difference between you know, acts of hate and hate crimes, for example. Like I think that that's something that we've batted around a couple of times.
Mhm.
That might be a good way to kind of talk about, you know, get people interested in thinking about what it is that we're trying to tackle, especially in light of the speaker we had last month. It could be a good education tool to get people thinking about what we do and what we don't do, you know, and incorporating somebody from the police department to talk about the crimes, but then also, I don't know if somebody like Nicole Argo or somebody else that could talk about the impact of just acts of hate
Mhm.
And just-
That's a great idea, Jen, that's a great idea.
And somebody from the school department, maybe to give examples of how they work with the educational part of when there are discrimination acts that happen.
Or somebody from MACD.
Mhm.
Great idea.
But yeah, we could put a panel together.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
Okay. Any other, okay, so what do you guys want to do first? Should we look at the current brochure and also the annual report to pull the content that we want to keep or add? You know, again, keeping in mind, we're not reinventing the wheel. So if we have it, maybe it just needs to be massaged a little bit to incorporate the discrimination complaint process. And then we can go from there.
Mhm.
Sounds
Is
good.
there a spring, what the heck is it called? When we have all the tables out there in front of town hall?
Oh, like the
The
Harvest
town
Festival.
fair. Yes, yes. Don't we do a spring one too?
It's
Am I
like
making that-
Spring Fest or something. I don't know. I haven't heard anything, but
There
I'm
used to
also
be
not-
super soups. No, that was the fall. But with the town common not having opened yet, maybe things,
It's
there used
open.
to be a kind of sale thing and all the stores had out
Yeah.
tables.
I have not heard anything about it for this year, and it's usually been driven by the small businesses. So I assume we're not doing it this year because I think we would have heard by now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because it's usually the first weekend in June.
Oh, yep.
So if we haven't heard anything, it's very likely it's not happening.
I hate to say that, hate to bring this up because I know that I'm not going to be in town, but the 4th of July is such a big active time. I don't know if there's, actually, I haven't been in Needham for the 4th in a while, but it used to be like lots of tables and concessions and stuff up at the high school before the fireworks and everything. Is that still
Yeah,
happening?
it's gonna be full force. My husband's at the Exchange Club night where they're stuffing the envelopes to send out the info. So it's back in full force, whatever it is.
I wonder if that's a place where we could get information out.
Hmm.
I don't really think there's a place there for that.
No,
There's the fireworks, you know, and the music on the,
I thought there, yeah, like I said, it's been a long time, so.
yeah, no, and then
Well,
it's.
once we get stuff together, I think collectively we can come up with a lot of ways. And June 1st is the next meeting of the Needham Resilience Network group. And I know that they're happy to send things out. And those are the leaders of a lot of town groups and also different identity-based groups. So that would be a really good way to get
I
things.
wonder if we could also, at some point, connect with the town meeting members to inform them. I don't know how close they are to their districts, to the people in their districts, but that certainly would give those who are interacting with people in their district or their community.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's a
I wonder
great-
if we could do a workshop at the diversity summit. I mean, obviously, not knowing what's on tap for that this year,
Yeah,
but
there's typically maybe 100 people who come there. There's lots of places I think we could get to, and the main thing is putting us together. And I think the select board the town will probably have some more ideas too. Maybe between Katie and Kate.
Yep. we can
Okay.
Keep brainstorming.
I'm happy to look at the brochure to see, just to check it out. And I know somebody that's somewhat fluent on Canva, so I can ask her to help me. Does somebody want to
wonder if
volunteer
Dinner
to
Emmy
go
would
through the
that might be a skill that they have.
kids?
Yeah.
I'll ask them.
Well, I'm gonna volunteer somebody else. Amelia is a really good writer and a really good editor. So Amelia, can I volunteer you?
For what?
She probably already wrote this.
Be more
Probably did.
specific.
To borrow things from hither and yon and put
Yeah,
together.
to work on something.
Yeah, if I get feedback, and have a sense of what our objectives are, what we want.
I'm happy to look at it too. I'm just not as good a writer as Amelia is.
The annual report. Is that what you're talking about, Marlene?
No, we're talking about this.
No, I'm
new-
talking about some either brochure or some whatever to put together something where we, have the Human Rights Committee highlighted and what we do. And one of the things we do is a discrimination complaint process. So, I mean, in my head, it's still a brochure, but I know that's, I don't know, electronically, you don't have a brochure, you have to have something else. So, and I know that Carrie can do a QR code, I think, really easily.
Okay.
So I'm
Okay, so
volunteering for people.
Amelia, can we do this? I'll look at the brochure and the annual report. If it's all written, we just have to pull what we want, and then I can touch base with you and you can help me just massage it.
Okay,
And then send it to us or something.
Yeah, and then we can come up with sort of a revised brochure, which could also include verbiage that we want to include on the website. And then we can circulate it and you guys can just let us know if that works.
And maybe have the next meeting as a goal that'll be the beginning rollout time. It might not be the huge publicity, but at least to have it start by then, or do you need to wait till the fall?
No, we might as well. I mean, we should just get this thing going because we have a few other things that we need to do with this as well. I mean, like, for example, you mentioned hotline. Phone number. Do we need a phone number? What phone number? How are we going to set that up? We have to go, formalize the form. There are a lot of little, there are a lot of things that we sort of like administratively, we also need to figure out. So, so does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And if somebody has I'll look at the box that she gave me. I'm sure there are some brochures in there, but if somebody has a digital copy, just so that we can, because it's very, so I don't have.
Katie just
I-
sent it to us.
I just emailed it. Yeah.
Oh, you have
Ooh.
it. Okay.
Oh, my
Great.
gosh.
Yay. Thank you, Katie.
And then Katie, is there somebody at town hall that if we need some updates to our webpage that can do that?
Yes, Louise in the town manager's office, she helps me with the HRC webpage. So really, I just would need you to tell me the content that you want to add or change.
Okay.
We have limited ability to change kind of like the look of the website. It's kind of a template that's the same for all the pages, but you can change the text and add sub pages and such.
Okay.
So
That's
we
great.
can like upload, when the intake form is finalized, we can upload that so people can access it, things like that.
It looks good. What's the QR code take you to on that?
Well, that's a great question.
Is that the annual report? Maybe?
It takes you to the HRC page on the town website.
Oh, okay. Which could then have the report and various other things.
it has the report.
I think this looks good. It's
We
much
already
better
did
than
this,
the
you guys.
last one.
We can relax now.
Before I forget, to go back to the town meeting members, maybe that we could at some point, not now, but at some point, make a presentation at a town meeting to the town meeting members who are present and give them more information than have the brochure or whatever other information available to them.
The other thing that's great now is that you can find the emails of all of your town meeting members.
They don't all have emails. Some of them do not list their email.
Okay, well, most of them, because I know before this last town meeting, I emailed a bunch of them with some of my concerns. And it was the way I wanted them to vote, representing me as a constituent. And I got some nice responses from some people.
Great.
Mhm.
That's a great idea. I want to do that too.
You guys,
Um,
I wonder if
League
we
of
could-
Women Voters is a good resource for connecting with people who are in elected office too.
If we wanted to put together like a 3-minute video or something like that of a couple of members talking about the process, that could explain it, so that if somebody, just as a different way of kind of getting out the information for somebody that was not necessarily a reader. And it actually also made me think of, maybe we want to get the brochure translated into a couple of different languages.
Ooh, great idea.
I don't know if we have the resources to do that, but we could probably research that out.
Housing Authority has some people who do translation, and I think the Council on Aging might, but also through the Needham Community Council, where they have the people teaching different languages.
But don't the
What-
schools send things out in different languages? So they might be a resource, whoever.
And the health department, it's maybe, again, Kate and Katie would know, it's something that's really a broader issue than just, I mean, I think it's important to do, but that's a concern that must exist throughout the town.
Right.
Yeah, we do have a contract through the health department with a translation company. So again, I can check into it and just see kind of what the costs are and if we can absorb it through somewhere.
That's really important, yeah.
Okay. These are all great ideas. We're gonna nail this thing, you guys.
What about through the response network? I mean, that is such an intentionally diverse group of folks that touch a lot of different,
Yeah, Cynthia mentioned that.
That's what I totally am glad that you're thinking about, because I had suggested that. Next
Sorry.
meeting is June 1st.
I'm actually presenting at that meeting, so, and I'm gonna talk to them tomorrow because I have so much time to help them with their social media. So I have a meeting with Nicole and Beth tomorrow, and then I'm presenting on the 1st. So I was gonna mention one of my slides is gonna be the discrimination complaint process, and I'll bring that up for sure.
What are you presenting? What's your topic?
What is HRC?
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, it's it's 2 minutes, but.
But
The-
they should let you know, go a little longer because it overlaps into town services. And we had people talk a long time about and schools and police and also.
Yeah, and it's all interconnected, so. But yeah, that is definite, that was one
Good
of my,
timing. Very good time.
really it is. Okay, does anybody else have any other comments or suggestions? Okay, great. So Amelia, I will touch base with you over the next few days, once I have just been able to look over everything. And you and I can come up with, I think it's just gonna need some minor edits, and we just need to figure out how to incorporate the discrimination complaint process into our collateral. Sound good?
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, next is, this is very important. New members recruitment. So we need, we're gonna need at least 2 new members for the next session. As you know, Renaz has resigned, and Lisa, I'm not sure if Lisa's gonna be able to attend the next month's meeting, but she's was going to try to get through June and sort of finish off the session, but then not continue on for the fall. So I did speak with somebody briefly last night. I know Miles had sent me a contact name, but he has not sort of followed up and reached out. I mean, I think the important thing to note is that as we are evolving as a committee, between all of the education, the outreach, the collaboration, the new discrimination complaint process, and other work that we will be doing with the select board, there are a lot of initiatives that are happening. So the key is to make sure that anybody that comes on board understands it. It is a working committee.
Mhm.
If you have ideas for recruitment, I mean, it is posted, Miles does post and he sends it out throughout the town network, but I also feel like because people don't necessarily know that we exist, or people who are not necessarily engaged with town government may not know about us and the work that we do. It's going to be, I think, a challenge to try to fill these positions by September. So I don't know if you guys have any other ideas of how to just, we can obviously email our committees and our networks, but other than that,
Well, I remember how Christina and Nada both found out about us. They read about it and they said, oh, this is something that I should do. So that weekly communication that goes out from the town when it talks about openings, is that what you're talking about with Miles? Because Miles doesn't do that. I mean, we used to have Cindy used to do it, but she's no longer.
yeah, no, he does a posting, I think, because I just ran into him and Kate Fitzpatrick on the sidewalk a couple days ago. So she had mentioned to him, are you posting? So I don't know, Katie, does he post somewhere on the website, on the town website?
Yeah, so there is one page that has all of the openings on all the various town boards and committees, and they link back to the actual committee page. And we do include in the news you need a general call out for interested folks for all of those opportunities. So the write-up in the newsletter wouldn't necessarily be specific to HRC, but the page on the website does get into the details.
On our
Right.
website, we used to have an essay, Why Join the Human Rights Committee? And it was written by a former member of the committee. It was beautifully written. And we used to use that in recruiting every so often, every few years, we would use that in recruiting.
Yeah, we used to put it in the newspaper, didn't we?
It was in the
Yeah,
newspaper once when it was.
Yeah.
written.
So we could use that. I have a copy somewhere, but I'm pretty sure it's still on our webpage.
What if we did something like through the Facebook page or something where maybe for a couple of weeks in a row, it's like, meet your HRC, and today we're highlighting Marlene. Here's a picture of Marlene and a paragraph about like why she's been on the committee for so long. Just kind of going off of what you're saying, Amelia, but maybe making it personal to those of us who are on here and what made you join and stick around.
Great idea.
Maybe not the picture, but although I think that probably also does, sorry, how I can shut this off. Or maybe we could, when we take the group picture, it could be one picture of everybody, but then have everybody kind of tell their story. Because I think it is really interesting to learn from each other what made you, decide to show up. It's compelling.
Yeah. Katie, could we ask Miles, I'm looking at the weekly news here. Here's the generic paragraph about accepting applications for ongoing vacancies follow-up. And then they're highlighting the Board of Assessors one, which of course is a different kind of thing than our board, but maybe there'd be room for a couple of sentences that we're highlighting. As of this spring, there are now openings in the Human Rights Committee? Kind of, maybe like 2 sentences, something in there, or would that be unfair to the other groups that need? Because we had.
No harm
so
in
many months
asking.
ago, there wasn't any openings. There were just a lot of, there, you had some people waiting, so it's kind of like news.
Yes, no, I'm happy to ask him. And Board of Assessors, I think, doesn't have a quorum right now, so they got the top of the list.
Yeah, I understand, that's a different situation.
But there is no harm in getting in the queue.
Well,
And
there
if anyone
was,
wants to be an assessor in your spare time. um,
Not my skill set.
I remember a couple years ago, Denise Garlick saying that there were a lot of people wanting to get involved locally. It was based on sort of the political situation at the time nationally. And I don't know, if that has just, gone by the wayside or not. But there was a pretty big interest at one point. People wanted to get involved in town governments. So
Should we do
somehow
a
we need to
session?
capitalize.
Should we organize a session at the Diversity Summit? What is human rights? Why join a human rights committee, or is
I kind of feel like
that too
We're-
boring?
preaching
I
to the
don't
choir
think
there. It's the
From
same
all
people.
But you've been part of it too, Amelia. You can end up with 5 people at a really good workshop. So I think what's a good thing at the Diversity Summit and at the MLK Day is to have a display for the Human Rights Committee with some pictures of things that are going on and with a place for people to sign up if they're interested, because sometimes we've gotten people that way and have people hang out near the display to talk to people. I think that would be more effective than a workshop.
I agree.
We also really wanted someone from the Housing Authority. We've worked over the years. We had somebody for a short time and
Yeah, a couple times, yeah.
we've had 2 different people, and I think it's really, really good to have someone from Housing Authority. So I don't know if anyone has a contact there. I mean, I
Well,
know,
at the NRN, a wonderful woman who is president of the Tenants Council, that's for the family housing. The Seabed's Way and whatever the name of the family house is, but she's in that part, not in the Chambers Street. They haven't been able to get people to lead that. It's very hard for them to get leaders within the tenants group, but we could make a point at the next meeting, can ask her.
well, isn't Penny Kirk still involved there some way?
She left her job there. She retired,
I
and she's
know
a member of the board of one of the commissioners, housing commissioners.
Oh,
I think that's
okay.
what they're called. And they have monthly meetings.
Yeah,
There's a
that's not
woman
Penny.
who I know who lives in housing, who is really interested in the Human Rights Committee, but we meet the same night as the housing commissioners, Board of Commissioners.
Oh,
meet,
oh.
and that she really wanted to go to that to keep in touch. She's a little bit less active now. She has some physical things, but I did keep in touch with her about, she also happens to be an immigrant and brings a different point of view that way. A fabulous person, but I couldn't say to her, come to this, when that's her involvement. That's where she lives. But we can work on it. You write a note. Ask.
Well, I'll definitely mention it in my presentation, because I think that was another bullet point that I wanted to talk about. So maybe there's somebody within the network,
Yeah.
in the network that knows somebody else in their own network.
Tina, did you speak with Bala?
Yeah, I did.
And is there an interest there?
I think she's worried about time,
Mhm.
which is, she was with another organization and she left it because she just, I think the time commitment was
Okay.
challenging, but so she's traveling today. I told her about tonight's meeting. I'm going to send her the recording once it's available, and we're going to touch, she and I are going to touch base next month.
Cynthia, you're always so good at finding people. You've done a lot of great recruiting for us, so.
Well, you too, and Amelia. And Nate could be the next one to find somebody through some of your school connections. Maybe you have a different group and the kids are people whose kids are younger, you know, and
Yeah, may well.
they don't have any time.
Yeah, the kids under 5 crowd. A lot of moving parts, but
Okay, so we'll just keep at it. Keep sending people my way, or, you know, start vetting, start talking to people. I'd like to at least have a couple of prospects in the pipeline by the time June rolls around.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, here we got this complaint process and we need people to help work on all of this stuff. We need workers and leaders.
Trying to remember if there's anybody on Newari that might do it. Now that that's not meeting regularly, but I don't know if most of those folks are already pulled into other things.
Yeah, how did we get Marcus? How was he interested? Do we know how he heard about us?
I think he just knew Christina.
Oh,
Was Christina.
and Tina, what about you? How did you get?
I was
did you
looking
do?
for opportunities to work with diversity in the community,
Oh,
and I just stumbled upon it.
So I guess we all need to work our networks and think about it.
I think Marlene raised an interesting point, which is that this may not be a problem at this time next year, depending on how the 2024 election shapes up. So it's unfortunate that we have to, make a push today, because 6 months or 9 months from today, there could be a lot of interest. I don't know if there's a mechanism for onboarding people at a later point, but
Well, speaking of onboarding,
next on the agenda, transition, right? Segue.
thank you, Nate. So when I came on, there was no, Amelia was, tremendous in helping me out. Christina helped a little bit. And then I would get bits and pieces from you guys. When Nate came on and Lisa, again, same sort of situation. I talked about what the committee did and the process, the things that we were working on, but there was really no formal orientation. So I think it might be helpful to maybe develop something like this. This was something that Marlene had brought up a couple of meetings ago. Just so committee members understand not only what we're doing and what we're about, but to, make people feel more comfortable in what we're doing from the get-go. Particularly since there is so much work that needs to be done. So to try to alleviate some of and we only meet once a month, some of the hurdles of sort of being, the unknown of being involved with the committee. It might be a nice way to introduce people to their positions as they come on board. So how do people feel about that? And do you have suggestions on what that might look like, or things that we should consider when we're putting together an onboarding process?
The same way that I feel about recruiting, we want to get good people, but we don't want to scare them away either by onboarding the way we onboard. We want to make them know that this is a working group when someone's made a decision, or even if they're thinking about it. But we also don't want to scare them away and have anyone say, oh, this is not what I signed up for. So I think it's a really fine line. I don't have an answer for that, but whatever we do, I want to make sure that that people feel wanted, needed, included, even though it's difficult, initially, because until you start to develop some relationships and start working with people. But I think sort of the belonging piece that I think is so important, to feel like you're really doing something important. And I think now that we have our complaint discrimination process, I think that's a really important piece that we're going to be playing for the town. And that's something that I feel like we probably want to play up with people and let them know what kind of impact. So to me, letting people know a lot about potential impact, I think would be good. I don't know how other people feel about that.
Good idea.
Cynthia has her hand up.
Oh,
Cynthia.
I'm addressing the whole thing of belonging and people working together. I'm one of the people who was most concerned about exposure and all, but I'm wondering whether is it time now for us to do an in-person meeting? And that's something I know Nate, I've never met Nate. Never been in the same room with him. But and you're one of the people who brought that up, how we've had 3 years and some of us have known each other so long, we already have this sense of connection, that one of the ways of developing belonging is for people to actually be in the same room. And we really needed to have it on Zoom for our speaker last time, but now we've moved into a different perspective. Not that that COVID's any less dire for people who are vulnerable who get it, but it is a much lower transmission rate and things have shifted. So I'm one of the people who wanted to be in a room with other people who are masked and all. Now I'm fine. I wear my own mask and I'm okay with being in places where other people aren't. And I don't know whether you want to consider moving back, at least for June.
Nate.
Yeah, I'd second that. I think that's a great idea. I think, and obviously this isn't unique to Human Rights Committee. This is universal and workplace and just like getting to know people at the time of the pandemic. But we're hamstrung here by two facts. The first is we meet once a month, and the second is we can't send emails to one another because they're all public records. We're not allowed to communicate outside of the committee. I think, in terms of building a nexus of thought and creativity and bouncing ideas off of one another, those are two pretty big hurdles to getting to, I think, a synergistic relationship. So meeting in person is great. I don't know if there's a workaround to the communications issue. Katie, you maybe no, or maybe there's not. Maybe that's just something we're stuck with. But
yeah, I don't know where you get that idea. I thought we can email. We just can't make any decisions.
Oh, that's great. That's good.
You can email anybody you want.
You just can't reply all to the group with something that's within the committee's jurisdiction. So if you wanted to email and say, what are your hobbies and how do I get to know you? And, yeah, you can do that. It just ends up being a fine line. So, it's a lot easier to just try to get together in person but no, you certainly can email each other. I would just stay off of topics that this group votes on.
Yeah, you can't.
Fair enough.
There's this good thing that came up at the Human Rights group on Friday. Let's all do it, or something like that.
Right.
But you can say, this came up on Friday, it will be FYI, you might want to read about it. Couldn't we do that? That's just an information thing. It's not suggesting.
Sure,
I'm
why couldn't
looking
you
at
do that?
Katie.
As long as you're not sharing an opinion.
Right.
If you state your opinion about something that's within HRC's jurisdiction, even if nobody replies, you're deliberating. But if it's just a factual, like, here's a news article or here's this event, you can circulate that.
Okay. Thanks.
Do you guys want to meet in person next month?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Definitely.
That sounds great. Maybe there could even be a hybrid. If anybody feels uncomfortable, there could be a hybrid option. But I love the idea of meeting you all. It'd be great.
I would prefer not to have hybrid. Hybrid meetings are so difficult. I have not ever been in one that I think is really good. The last hybrid meeting I was in, there were 4 people on the screen and there were 4 people in person. And it turned out that the 4 people on the screen talked to each other and the 4 people in person talked. And we had to like shut each other up to be able for everybody to talk together. It was horrendous.
So Katie, can we reserve a room, please?
Do that.
How about the bigger of the 2 base seller ones?
Sure, Great Plain. Yep, I'll
Great
check
Plain.
if it's available.
So some of my ideas about onboarding are when someone comes, that we take time out of a first meeting, sort of a meet and greet kind of thing, even though it may seem repetitious to people who've been on for many, many years. But I still think it's really important to do that meet and greet, kind of just go around, almost like an icebreaker kind of thing. And I think it's really important that people understand sort of our role in the town and how we are advisory to the select board and what our limitations are, and what we can do. And that also can change because we can always go to the select board or town meeting and, change things. And I just think it's, and for people to know what we've done, and what we're working on. And those are just some of my ideas.
I know you don't want to frighten people away, but do we talk about sort of expectations, goals?
I think we should.
I would second that.
Mhm. People need to know.
It's sort of how you present it. You can present it in a positive light. We don't have to talk about our battles. We can talk about our challenges.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on the onboarding? Any sort of documentation that we can put together, like I don't know. I mean,
Maybe-
I know there, like, even if it was just a list of web links for resources, to our website or to list of important phone numbers, things like that. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head that, it would have been helpful. What would have been helpful for me, especially sort of jumping into this position,
Yeah.
who to talk to, legal stuff, all of that, like wrapping my head around open. I know there's that training, but sometimes it's nice to actually talk to somebody one-on-one.
We used to always put out a list when the beginning of the year with everyone's name, address, phone number, email. I don't think we've done that for a while. I know you're talking about other people, but I'm just talking about
Yeah.
committee. It's nice for people to know because, maybe they walk by our house every day and they had no idea.
I think encouraging people to attend a meeting is really important. And we've had some attend a meeting and say, that's not for me, but better to find it out then than to join. But I've always given people suggested they go to the website and read some of the things that are linked there. And then there's also, we're redoing the pamphlet and the annual report. Which it's different what you give people to recruit them than what you're giving people to quote onboard them. So
Mhm.
maybe we can't figure all of that out right now.
It may make sense for the first session in September to maybe even just spend 15 or 20 minutes at the beginning doing some sort of more formal orientation, like particularly if people don't have experience on town boards. I know I didn't. Here's how a town meeting progresses, right? These are sort of the steps that you'll see in the course of today. These are the types of agenda items that we'll potentially be interested in talking about. If you've got a thought, make sure to submit it. And some of that's in the obviously the town trainings that we all have to do, but
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Maybe giving people a couple months worth of minutes to take a look at as well gives you a good sense of what the meat of our meetings are like.
Or a video, a recording of the meeting.
Yeah.
That would be some riveting watching, wouldn't it?
Every single meeting is on YouTube right now. So if somebody really wanted to watch them all, they can.
How long do they stay up? Some of them we'd probably just assume.
Oh, longer than any of us will ever be here.
Oh, no.
So should we, I mean, in the notes, obviously I'm the note taker this month. I'm going to document all of this, but do we want to formalize something, put together a document? I don't know. What do you guys want to do as far as the onboarding process?
I think it would be good to have something as a document that then can be passed on. Because we're not all going to be here forever, and it doesn't mean that people will continue to do it in the same way. But at least they'll see that we had something. That's my feeling. I mean, I don't want it to have it be too much work for anybody or a group of people to do, but I think it sort of professionalizes the committee and the importance of it. Maybe professional isn't the right word, but it shows that we're serious about our business. This is serious work, this human rights stuff. It really is. Especially if you read about what's going on in all the other states in this country and in the rest of the world. We just, I just continue to be so happy that I live in Massachusetts. I mean, not perfectly happy, but there are things here that need to be changed. But I think it would be, a good idea. I don't know. Do other people think it should be something that, like a document?
Didn't Carrie open up like something on Google for us that was supposed to be kind of the home for all of our documents and stuff?
Yeah, but
There's no onboarding document.
I don't
people
think
don't know how to use
But
it.
that's what I'm saying. But like, all of these things that we're talking about could all live somewhere where a new
Yeah.
member can go and
Shared
you know,
Google Drive.
Yeah.
Katie has her hand up.
Katie.
Just to say that we did a lot of work to create a more formalized select board orientation onboarding document because we had so much turnover in the last few years.
Yeah.
So I can circulate that, and the regulatory pieces, the open meeting law and the public records law, we don't have to recreate that wheel, but maybe it can give you the table of contents and see like what pieces you would want to customize versus take out, or it's maybe a good starting point.
Do any other committees have something in addition to select board?
Yes, but
Onboard?
it really varies. I think the Board of Health has a pretty intensive like 3-ring binder. So it really varies just on, the staff liaison and how much kind of capacity that committee has had over the years.
And that's probably very different because they have a lot of.
That's an
professional-
elected group.
Yeah.
And they do like permitting and, so it varies quite a bit, but I was in the select board one and maybe it can be a starting point.
Great idea.
Okay. So maybe
You
we
need
can
a
all take a
motion on
look at
that?
that. Do we?
You want
No,
a motion to say that we have a document for onboarding? No, okay.
Can everybody, when Katie sends that, can everybody take a look at it and just sort of see what you guys like and you don't like from it?
Okay,
And then we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Great.
Is that okay?
sounds good.
Okay, and then if anything else comes up, it may trigger, you know, well, this is pertinent to the select board, or what about, you know, this is something that HRC needs, whatever, then we can talk about it next month.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Katie, I'm gonna need you for this one because I got your email, I just didn't respond to you. The Massachusetts Indigenous Legislative Agenda. So I did send a link. Did I send it or did I ask to send to the select board? I don't remember what happened. Because this is something that we wanted to make the members aware of, right? And somehow try to get behind it. Katie, could you just reiterate the email that you sent me a couple days ago about this and the process?
Yes, you had sent me the link to the agenda and asked me to share it, which I failed to do leading up to town meeting. So my email back to you was apologizing for that. But my question is, you know, they will read it, of course, if we share it, but I don't know what we're asking them to do. This committee has not kind of talked through each bill and kind of taken a position on it. So, you know, I'm not sure if you want to go through that due diligence process as this group and then recommend to the select board that they support it. The other option is the last we've left it as far as my memory serves, but feel free to correct me, is that the select board wanted HRC to make recommendations to them as opposed to taking your own positions on state legislation. The board has had a ton of turnover since that conversation. So my only other suggestion, if you want to do this, is Tina, either you can kind of start a conversation with Mary Ann or to see if that is still procedurally how the select board would like the HRC to approach state legislation. I've not had any discussions on this
give
yet,
them-
but I just wanted to raise that the relationship between the two boards is, you know, the boards have really changed. So if it's something you're interested in revisiting, I just wanted to ask the question.
Good
The
point.
process that we want to go through.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do people feel about that? Because we could follow different paths. Cynthia.
I wonder if we could do both things, kind of like send them the link. And like I was meeting with Kevin Keane about something else and I said, do you know about this? Oh, no, I haven't heard about that. And I just sent him the link because we were talking about things that were with the memorial committee and the community farm and people doing a ceremony from Indigenous point of view and stuff like that. So I think that at the very least, we could send that to them and say, this is something that we're concerned about and we're not sure how the process is going to be, but we want you to know about it. That they at least need to know about it. Then we can find out from Mary Ann about the process, and we need to know about it.
I think if it's something that we're very, that we think we want the town to take a stand on, I think, yes, we need to send them the link, but I think we need a statement that we send to them. The Human Rights Committee supports because if we don't do that, then what are they going to do with that information? They need to know what we're asking them to move forward, and then they can make a decision. So, and I don't know what other towns are doing in terms of the state legislation. Do you know?
I don't know.
Quite a few have approved it as their Human Rights Commission or board, and well, especially if they're a commission, they're allowed to do it.
Yeah, they can do it on their own.
Yeah. And we haven't studied it. I mean, I've read through and there's some parts are similar to things I've already know about that I would agree with, and there's some other parts I have questions about. And I think that if we want the town to really not just, well, they can't endorse, we want them to understand it. And if we're saying, hey, you're going to endorse this, then that means we're going to have Indigenous Peoples' Day and not Columbus Day. I mean, I remember when that had been asked several years ago, and they came back with, let's see the research, let's see other towns, let's see, it's a whole lot of questions that were raised around that. Now, can you go ahead and support the state doing it without having those same questions? That's just one of the 4 or 5.
Well, should we invite someone to come and talk about it to us? So we're more knowledgeable, so then we can make a recommendation or not?
I was going to suggest the same thing, Marlene. I think that that's a really good idea. And maybe we could even invite others, whether it's the select board members. I know that they're all very busy, but this feels like a good opportunity for education for the community in addition to us as well.
I like the idea of a joint something that's with the select board and the Human Rights Committee, so that you're hearing the same kind of presentation. And I know they're very busy, but if we're asking them to make a decision and we're asking ourselves to make one.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I think we could invite them. They may not be able to come, but I think we need to do our due diligence. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do, and then recommend to them. They can't do everything. There's so many things that come across on their agenda and their desk, but this is an area of concern of human rights for us. So if we could have somebody come, and Cynthia, do you know somebody who would be able to come and
Well, and Amelia too. I like the Massachusetts Association. What's the name of the group? MAC, the one that's educationally oriented. I think I would prefer to have somebody come from that group than from the Legislative Action Group. I think you might get a more educational approach and less of a let's push this through.
There might be someone available. I don't know if we would have to pay an honorarium. The Massachusetts Center for Native American Awareness does do workshop. They do workshops. They have actually done something for us years ago. They did a presentation for us.
With Claudia Foxtree. She would be the one, if we could get her to come. I really trust her in her orientation, and you and I and some other people went to one of her workshops about advocacy and how to bring about change in towns, of course, that I thought was very good. We could do another one of those like meet at 7 o'clock and have an educational component.
I think she would be terrific. The only thing is she's very, very much in demand. They have a skeleton crew now in terms of resource people that are qualified or willing to do this outreach. Even Indigenous Day, it's difficult to get someone from their office, but I could inquire, I could check.
And if we're talking about maybe September.
What is the time frame on this?
Most bills are part of the 2-year cycle in the State House, where I just spent most of the day on a different bill, but it's the first year right now of the new cycle. So I don't know where that one is in the process, so we certainly could find out.
So what do we want? We want someone to come and interpret or discuss the issues behind the legislation
educate us about the legislation?
from an Indigenous perspective.
Right. And if it's too much to do all of them, maybe to, I would say at least to choose the Indigenous Peoples' Day as one of them. And we've heard how she has approached that with some other towns. So,
And if she's too busy, maybe there's someone else she can refer us to.
I'd really like to see if we can get her. I know she's busy, but she does do some things, and maybe we present it as this is the town committee and, you know, we want to invite the town leaders. It makes it more interesting than just another 10 libraries coming together to hear.
Right, with the ultimate goal of supporting the legislation, right,
Right.
you know, but we need the education, we need somebody's perspective that really has an understanding of what this is.
And I would also want to invite some of the people who were in the memorial committee for enslaved and indigenous people, because anything that helps with the town understanding some aspect of our roots and our current connections would be helpful.
So are we thinking September?
Yeah, I think it's impossible. It would be unlikely that anybody would have time in June.
Right.
Yeah. Do we have our dates for next year?
Katie
Right.
sent me the draft. I have to look.
Okay.
Hmm.
Because, you know, if Amelia or someone's reaching out, they're gonna need to know a date if we want to do it on the same night as I mean, I wonder how much time they would need.
Well, we're still meeting the third Thursday.
Yeah,
Mm.
if there's not a conflict, right?
Well, it's only April and it's February and April.
Well, September, you know, they're the Jewish holidays, so we don't want to meet on a Jewish
Ah,
holiday.
right.
Oh, right, yeah.
But September 21st is the third.
But how does
Thursday.
that sit with the?
That's fine. It's between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, so it's okay,
Oh, it's okay, great.
fine.
Okay, so Amelia, can we target the September 21?
Or presentation in person or in Zoom, with Zoom might, I hate to say it, but might be more convenient for someone who's very much in demand. And they're still doing a lot of their workshops on Zoom.
I
And
think that's
whatnot.
fine. I mean,
It would be, on Zoom would be, that's what we would expect. But
Except,
it doesn't
how
work well to do us in person and one person on Zoom. Katie, does that come through in terms of hearing the person?
Yes, yep.
It's when you were trying to do a hybrid meeting that it wasn't working as well.
The challenge is doing it in Powers Hall because that space is way too big for some of our technology. But if you're doing a smaller conference room, we have a setup that works really well.
Ah, great.
so then we can have a conversation afterwards and decide about our support, vote on it, support. And what exactly we're supporting.
And that could be a really good way of, you know, trying to get new people involved, say, we have the discrimination complaint process, and another thing we're involved with is Massachusetts Indigenous Peoples legislation. So it's a very concrete kind of way of seeing how the Human Rights Committee can make a difference with the town.
okay, I think that sounds like a great plan. Do we want to send the link to the select board members in advance, Cynthia, as you had mentioned, just so that there's some familiar, I mean, you already sent it to Kevin. Just so there's some familiarity with the legislation and they're, you know, not walking
Yes.
into, okay. So Katie, can we still send that? Do you guys want to wait till closer to that meeting?
I would wait until closer to the meeting. Why
I
should they
send it
run
both times.
now with no follow-up, you know?
Yeah,
I'd do it both times.
I wouldn't. Jen, you're muted.
I was just gonna say, maybe we should even wait until after we have had our meeting with her so that we're in a better position to answer questions and like figure out what the ask is. They have so much to read. I can't, you know,
but aren't we inviting them to the meeting if they're available?
oh, yeah, I see. what
Just so
you're
they
saying.
have a little bit of background. It's some
We
context.
invited them to the other thing and no one could come. No one came, right? To the extremism.
I think Mary Ann might have popped in.
Oops, Katie,
I think Mary Ann popped in briefly last meeting.
Imagine how great our meetings are gonna be when we're not muting and unmuting and forgetting to mute and forgetting to unmute. We're gonna be like a well.
I can see hands. Oh my God.
You won't need to
Um,
see because people can just talk.
Yeah, that's right. So, okay, so let's do that. Let's thank you, Amelia, for volunteering to reach out. We're targeting September 21st. We've got the link. We'll send them the information as we get a little bit closer. And hopefully it's all going to come together.
and somebody's gonna, maybe Tina's gonna talk with Mary Ann Cooley about this dance back and forth and say our understanding of it, but you know, checking in as to whether that's
The
how.
process in general about supporting legislation, because I'm
Right.
sure, it'll come up with something else, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I have lots I could give you, but they're from other groups.
Okay. We're up against it. But let's talk about Race Amity Days as that is going to happen before our next meeting. So, Cynthia, do you have any additional details on that?
And Amelia is very much involved with the planning too. Since we're the one of the co-sponsors, that we're looking for people to volunteer that day, especially. And one of the things is to help with cleanup, but people will be welcome to help in other ways. The second thing is, well, that we really want to get the publicity out. And the third is if you yourself or you know somebody who speaks another language enough to be able to say, welcome to Race Amity Day, or a few words, they're going to do that. Again, Amelia, can you think of other things we want from people?
No, I think what is important is we certainly will need help setting up and cleaning up after, which is very quick. I mean, it's not a big deal. Setting up will take a little more time. But we have quite a few volunteers so far. But I think mingling as representatives, by the way, I have the badges for Human Rights Committee members. So whoever comes to, next time I see you all in person, you're getting the badges, and it's your responsibility to wear them. But that might be a way of sharing information about Human Rights Committee as well. But really important interacting and bringing children, there will be a craft table, which was very popular last year for the children. They were painting rocks. We're doing something different this year. There will be some food. And it's very casual. I mean, it's not like you're sitting and listening to speeches. There will be a musical group, the same group that was there last year and was very popular. Some people just kind of wandered around. They took a walk around the Amnesty Trail and came back, had something to eat, interacted. It was great. Very relaxing and interactive. People brought chairs or blankets, sat and listened to the music. But what was important was there was a lot of interaction. We would like to have more diversity. If you have neighbors or people, please encourage them to come, especially if you have contacts through the schools, children in the schools, maybe inviting parents.
So it
You wanna
starts
see
at 4.
Anybody will volunteer who's here, anybody who knows that they might be able to come on the 11th of June. Sunday afternoon, 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
I think I can. I just have to confirm children's schedules.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Offer
don't-
them up to be part of it.
Hey, Mom, you're human.
Here's
You're
your
making
late
them do
Mother-
everything.
Your late Mother's Day.
More human rights.
Nate, if you're gonna be around, your kids might enjoy it.
Yeah, let me take a look.
So,
And has the poster already been finalized?
yeah, I think we sent it to everybody, didn't we?
Okay, I can't keep it all straight. So
There's
okay,
so many events, I can't remember which ones got sent, but we did hand them out to every town meeting member we could get to take one on
right,
Monday,
okay.
the 8th.
And then did you
They
guys
were
send
good about it too.
a digital copy so that we can put it on
I'll,
our
I'll
Facebook
send
page?
it around.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, if you guys need anything else on that, just keep us posted.
Thank you.
Amelia, did you want to touch base on the May presentation?
No, I'd rather do it next week. It's after 9 and I would like to share some important information. It's not a long presentation, but I think
Okay.
it's information overload.
Do
So
you want to do the group photo
why don't we do
tonight?
it next
Or do you
week?
want to wait?
Yeah, might as
Since
well
we're
wait.
missing a bunch of people.
Yeah,
Why not take one tonight? And if we have more next time, you can use that. But if you have less, you'll have this one.
it's a good idea. We did that last year. So why don't we do that?
Does Katie do it?
Two for,
Do a screenshot?
Yes, hold on, let me set myself up. Okay, the trick is to look at your camera, not at your face. All right, 1, 2, 3. Let me see if that worked. It's a good one. Thanks.
Great.
good.
Okay, the rest of it is announcements. You guys can read all of that on your own. Cynthia, you did send something else out that did not make the agenda deadline, so I will circulate that to everybody.
I have no memory of what it was, so.
Okay, but I have it. Anything else?
Oh, people were asking at the NDI meeting, is anything happening about Juneteenth? And they said, wasn't there a town committee? And I said, it didn't happen this year, that's gonna happen next year, but I don't know if anything is going on in the town for Juneteenth.
No, and we got so busy with other things that I just,
But we have a lot of Pride Month things with the banners and the two of the things at
the parade.
the center at the Heights and
Center.
the parade. So there's really quite a bit happening in town.
Okay. Great. Anybody else have anything? Can I have an emotion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second,
Okay, Bud, you're taking minutes next month.
yes, yes. And I'll try
Okay.
not to multitask and be in another meeting. I had another thing I had to go to, so I tried
We're
to
gonna-
do both at once.
We're gonna be in person, Bud.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Sounds
be in
great.
person.
That's great.
Okay, Marlene,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes,
Jen,
Yes.
Amelia,
Yes.
Nate?
Yep.
Bud?
Yes.
I am a yes. Thank you, guys.
Thank
I will talk to
you.
you soon.
thank
Bye.
you.
Good night.
Good
Thanks
night.
for all